All right, let's bring this up a little bit here. We are live. Good morning. Want to give everybody a moment to tune in live. Got a few coming in.
Hello.
We want to just wish everybody a happy New Year this weekend. We won't see anybody until next year. I love all those like dads out there who are always like, see you next year, you know, like Friday at work. Yeah, I'm one of those dads now. I feel like I'm going to be doing that. It's like a given. I'm going to be leaving today and look at Corey and be like, hey man, see you next year.
See you next year, buddy.
All right. So New Year's plans, New Year's things happening. Tell everybody what you just told us about that. We didn't know this is a thing.
Evidently, I didn't know this was a thing, but my wife is an Instagram follower of like romantic Asheville. And so evidently Marion has a gold nugget drop on New Year's Eve. And it's a family friendly event. They have food and music and a golden nugget.
How big's the golden nugget?
I don't know. It looked kind of big. Evidently it's made out of metal. Some metal worker made it.
Go check out the gold nugget. Spruce Pine, Libby Phillips and Main Street. You need to top that. Marion, we cannot be outdone by Marion.
No.
We
Absolutely
need
not.
something that we can drop, like a gem.
Like a giant
Or
emerald.
Henley can make something just massive.
Yeah.
Like a abstract art. We could drop
What if it was
that.
like Philip Heiss?
Philip Heiss drop. Or Darla.
Or Darla, yeah.
We dropped Darla.
Drop the mayor.
Yeah.
Like it's hot.
Somebody tag Darla Phillips Harding in this and tell her we want her dropped. Not in like a bad way.
No, like a nice
bad.
slow, like a very...
Yeah.
She could wave
Yeah.
the whole way down.
Okay.
It'd be epic.
We do want to mention today is Brandon Burleson's last day. Brandon has worked with us for a short while. He finally came home to the family business. He's not really part of the family. I just keep saying that. But great guy. Works at the counter. So we wanted to mention if you guys want to go by the counter today and tell Brandon bye.
Yeah.
Bring him a coffee.
Greatly missed.
But we do have Colton as his replacement, Colton Wise. Come introduce yourself to him, and while you're sending Brandon out. But we do wish you the best, Brandon.
Yeah, man.
He is headed to Uniman to do Uniman things.
Undercover, special, secret Uniman things.
But we do wish him the best, and I do want to say in these videos, the reason we do them, I want to just kind of keep reinforcing that we do these videos for you guys, for homeowners. We get questions constantly. You guys answer them even more so than I do. Just questions that homeowners don't know. They don't know about their home. They don't know how to do certain things, what needs to be done. That's why we're here. You get a owner's manual for your phone, for your car, and a slew of other things, but you don't for your home. So hopefully these videos will kind of be your owner's manual for your home, and that we can keep providing you with information. You can ask your questions on burlesonplumbing.com/QA. We're giving away a faucet in a couple weeks, brand new kitchen faucet.
Yep.
So if you will go ask a question on that website that I just mentioned, you're entered to win that. The next month we're giving away a Wi-Fi thermostat. So keep asking questions. We have had kind of a standstill this week on questions. Maybe people just been busy with Christmas, but get on there and ask questions and we will get them answered. We've got 2 questions today that we will jump into after this segment, which we are excited about. This is it's kind of something we've been doing, but we got a name for it now.
We do.
This is the what?
Hey, that's neat.
Yeah. Hey, that's neat. So, our hey, that's neat items for the day, because it is so blistery cold outside. Balmy cold.
It is terribly cold.
Terrible adjectives. We want to tell you about some insulators. First is pipe insulation. This is a small piece of pipe insulation that comes with water heaters. Just to give you an example, it fits over your pipe. We have it in 6-foot sections. If you've got a section of pipe that has frozen up in the past, or it's in a basement crawl space where your water supply is coming into your house that is exposed in any way, I would come grab some of this and put it over that pipe so that you don't have frozen pipe dilemmas.
Yeah, it does definitely help.
Something else you can use is just pipe wrap insulation. All this is just fiberglass and a roll. Comes with some plastic to keep it from getting wet. Wrap that around your pipe for, I think it's around $2. You can insulate about a 6-foot section of pipe. That is also good for wrapping up any like water filter or anything else. Water filter is the main culprit in freezing, those plastic housings. So make sure those are insulated. And the last is great stuff. If you're not familiar with what great stuff is,
it's great.
It is, the stuff is great. It will fill gaps and cracks and places around doorways, basements. All you do is just hook up this little nozzle, shake and spray. It expands, hardens, and you definitely need to do this if there's any sort of pipe or anything coming into your house, maybe from your heat pump, water source.
Any penetrations through your walls and stuff. I would not suggest getting it in your eyes, though.
No.
I had that happen one time. It does not feel great.
And if anybody knows James Young, ask him what it's like to get it in your hair. James had a little project going for his church, and
yeah, not suggested for hair.
You will just have to chop your hair off if you try.
Let's just say peanut butter won't get it out.
No.
No.
Okay, that's our hey, that's neat.
Hey, that's
segment.
Neat.
Come by and get some of that stuff. Those are all common items that we'll have on the shelf at all times. I do want to thank our pen sponsor for the day.
Yeah. Who was it this week?
Fox and Fig. Thank you so much for sponsoring our Pilot G207.
Aaron, you're the best.
Great pen, Aaron. Thank you so much. And we do have a special guest, if you haven't seen him yet, Corey Runyon. Corey is an extraordinaire at most things. He is the hybrid at Burleson Plumbing. He knows how to do some little bit of everything. What is it? Master of none? Well, how's that sentence start?
Jack of all trades, master of
Yeah,
none.
yeah. He's actually master of some, though.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Jack of all trades, for
Definitely.
sure. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you to have you today.
I brought on Corey today because we've got some topics that are more along the building side of plumbing, kind of a construction-based. Corey worked in that industry for some time before he came on with Burleson Plumbing, so he is super knowledgeable in those things. So without further ado, we're going to get into our questions right after this fancy disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
Everything we suggest and recommend is simply that. We want everyone to be educated on how things work, but not how to work on technical things. We always recommend hiring a licensed service professional where risk is involved. Burleson Plumbing and Heating and its employees are not responsible for injury, damages, or loss related to you, your property, or your home. So you be careful, especially when handling construction, nail guns,
power
those
tools,
type things. This is a risky topic, but something that at least you can be educated on.
Yeah.
We have two questions. Mr. Bill and Mr. Zach asked these questions. We're going to start with Bill's question from Burnsville. Bill from Burnsville.
Bill? Oh, BB.
Asking a building question. Hi, I'm considering building a small bump out onto my house so I can move my water system, the hot water tank, pressure tank, and filter from a 4-foot high crawl space into a space that I and service people can walk into. Any suggestions on constructing such an addition? Thanks. That is, I've heard that question before.
Yeah.
We've gotten it before. We've seen people do it before. So, Corey, I'll give you the floor. What's some recommendations, some things that Bill needs to think about when starting this project up?
First and foremost, I would say that whenever you talk about any addition or structure to your property, adding a structure to your property, that you should consider looking into the proper permits and inspections. Beyond that, the next biggest thing, it's probably going to take a lot more room than what you think it does, especially when you look at it from a service aspect, like he mentioned in his question, being able to get in there and work on things. Especially if you've got a pressure tank, maybe a freestanding pump, if you don't have a submersible pump for your system, water filter, water heater, and you consider, the size of your average plumber.
Yeah.
Not around here. They're all tiny.
And getting in there with, wrenches that can be this long to work on things.
A lot of people might, I guess, would measure. For me, I haven't done this project before. I would, measure my water heater. I'd measure the filter. It's only that big, and what else would he talk about putting in there? A pressure tank. It's about that big. I'd measure that and think, okay, well, I only need about 5 by 5. That would all fit in there. That's where you're saying. Yeah. That's where you're going to go wrong.
But once you start to put all that stuff in there, and your pressure tank is this far away from your water heater, it makes it hard to get in there and service.
Yeah. What else? What else do they need to think about with that?
The next thing you need to think about is going to be the power situation and the water situation, because you're going to have to get the power from the existing location all the way to the new location and your water piping, and you're dealing with 220 power on a water heater, 220 power on a water pump, because your water pump may be in the well, but at your pressure tank you still have that pressure switch which tells your pump to come on.
Yeah, that's really good to think about.
So you may also have to have access to your breaker panel to be able to move all that stuff as well.
Yeah, so and checking your panel to see if there's the spaces, the appropriate spaces, if you don't already have it there. Something else would be, where does your water come in from your well to the house? Yeah. You don't want to build your pump house or whatever we're calling this structure on the opposite end of the house. I mean, unless that's the only place it can go, then you've got a lot of piping out of the way. So that's a very good point.
And that's just considering if you've got an electric water heater. If you've got something else like a gas water heater, you'd have gas piping to consider. You would have how the venting would run for that gas water heater. You'd also have to consider things like combustion air for it to function properly.
And since on that topic, what is combustion air for all of those that don't know?
What is combustion air, Ryan? Ryan is a resident combustion air expert.
When it comes to air that combusts, I know all about that.
Yeah. Ryan went to school for 3 weeks on combustion air. What's
combustion air? Makeup air. It's any gas unit needs air in order to run properly. So a lot of times, especially in a small space, if you've got let's say a furnace, gas water heater, both of those fixtures are going to need to be able to get a hold of air in order to run properly. So they're taking in air, and they're also exhausting carbon dioxide. And so if the room is too small for the fixtures or the units, then essentially you're going to kill them. They're going to be trying to breathe and they can't. So sometimes you have to penetrate through the structure and get your combustion air from outside. So that's something to consider as well, when you're constructing that room, to make sure that it's big enough to facilitate a gas fixture if there is one in there, and if not, how are you going to penetrate through a wall or a roof and to be able to get that makeup air.
Something else that we haven't talked about, and you've probably got this in mind as well, is, and you probably have to account for space with this as well, how are you going to heat that space?
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got water in there, it's got to be heated, and that's one thing a lot of people don't think about. I don't think they think about when they're talking about moving a water heater, moving a pressure tank. I've heard of plenty of people who might live in Florida, a little bit more south, warmer climates, that are used to service people coming and installing a tankless water heater on their outside wall and piping it in. It's definitely not recommended.
Not
here.
suggested in the mountains.
If you are anywhere close to us, and there's maybe people watching elsewhere, the temperature today right now is 28. Yesterday morning it was 14. And this weekend it's getting down below 10 on New Year's Day. You don't want any sort of water exposed. No. Water heater, pressure tank, anything. So you're going to freeze up. So how are you going to heat that space is the next thing.
Yeah, even if you go to an extreme to insulate it, with a water heater in there, you might get a little residual heat off the water heater that may keep it from freezing. But at the same time, they're making water heaters more and more efficient, so they're giving off less heat. We do have a product. It's a pump house heater.
Yes.
Which is another thing that would also require power. But just because you insulate an area doesn't mean, without a heat source, it doesn't mean it won't freeze. Insulation alone won't keep things from freezing.
That's a good point.
Insulation's there to keep the heat in.
Yeah.
You got to have the heat source first.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a very good point. There is pump house heaters. I've seen people put as little as a heat lamp in a space like this. Not necessarily recommended if that bulb goes out or something like that. In all these situations, if you lose power, you're in trouble as well. But that would be true if you were inside the house or in the pump house like this. So you got to think about how you're going to heat it. Do you have the power for that? Do you have the space for that? And then what are you going to use? Probably one of the least expensive options would be like a milk house heater, which we have here for about $20-30 bucks. Yeah, that's going to put off enough heat in a small space, insulated space, to suffice keeping things from freezing.
Yeah. And whatever you do not want to create a fire hazard.
Yeah, that's probably first and foremost to think about, putting a heater in a space that might create a fire hazard. That's a very good point. If we're talking about a gas water heater and some sort of open flame, you could get in trouble there if you don't have your makeup air. Yeah. What else we need to think about? Anything else?
As far as the actual construction of an addition to the house or a bump out, it would just be too hard to make any suggestions because everybody's situation is different. You got to consider, do you want to grab a couple of pallets and a few 2x4s and pieces of plywood and try to throw something up? Or do you want it to be a seamless addition to your house where you have to consider, can I match the siding? Can I match the foundation? What's the roof pitch going to look like? Because we've got to keep water out of this area because we've got insulation and power and things of that nature. So I would recommend contacting your handyman or a local contractor to come out and look at your situation and give you a recommendation based on your actual individual scenario.
Yeah, and then you got to think about your budget. Like, what do you want this to be budgeted for as well? If you're talking about a seamless addition, you're talking about an addition.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking from grading. Having to bring somebody out probably to level something off, because around here, you know how it is.
Right.
Nothing's level.
Right.
Ever.
That's a good thought. Good thought. A lot to think about for Bill. Hopefully that helps Bill and anybody else who's thinking about a project like this, to give you the steps of what you need to be thinking about, how you can start. So that's where we're at. Next question we have comes from Zach.
Just so happens, look who just showed up.
Zach is in. Zach, we are answering your question. Thanks for tuning in. Zach from Spruce Pine has an issue. And that issue is, what do I do if my tile is falling into my bathtub? And he's got 2 exclamation points and 2 question marks. So this is an issue for Zach right now. So also kind of on the building side of things, it's not necessarily, we deal with plumbing daily, like running your pipe, heat sources, electrical. So this isn't in that realm, but you got to think about the construction side of things when you're building a tub, putting in a tile shower, anything of that nature. So tell Zach what options does he have? What can he do?
Well, unfortunately, from the start, there's some kind of issue from the installation of that tile. Whether the thin set wasn't mixed properly, or maybe it was done under new construction, so there was no heat on in the house. There could be several factors that cause that, and unfortunately, they're hard to fix, especially when you're talking about tile. The first thing is matching the tile or matching the grout. If you're trying to repair it, to properly fix that, you would probably be looking at taking down all the tile and starting over.
More than likely, what's behind that tile, if it's exposed right now, is going to be, if not already damaged, is probably getting there. A lot of situations, people have just put the tile on like a wood backing, and you got to have some sort of barrier to keep the moisture from breaking down that wood or backing or whatever it is. So talking through that, like what does that look like as far as repair?
Typically, you would take it down to the stud wall. Once I do that, I'd make sure I got good insulation, and then I would put up some kind of vapor barrier like a Tyvek, and then you use a hardy board or a cement board, and then you can tile right to that cement board with your thin set.
Okay.
If you want to talk about, maybe a little quick repair, you might have some options there, especially if your tile didn't break when it fell in. The problem is you've probably got thin set on the back of this tile now, and if you try to glue it back up there, it's going to stick out.
Yeah.
Even if you use just a minimal amount of some kind of glue or thin set. So you would have to take an angle grinder and try to get that tile, the back of that tile, clean, and then try to reattach it so that it was relatively smooth.
Yeah.
And then you would have to, of course, grout it back, trying to match the grout as closely as you could, and use something like a Liquid Nails makes a specific tub surround shower wall adhesive. So you definitely want to try something that's heat and steam resistant, like this is.
Yeah, that's a $5 fix. If you've got the grinder, or you can borrow one from somebody, then you got a $5 fix to get it back on there and kind of looking okay until you can do something a little more permanent.
I found when me and Maria bought our first house, our tub shower was tiled walls. And so when looking at the house, I never realized it, but once we finally bought it and moved in, the tile was in really bad shape. And not only was the tile in bad shape, but you could literally push on the tile, and the wall, the material behind the tile, was actually rotten and moldy as well. So literally, like, when I opened everything up, it revealed years of just water damage and mold. So I ended up having to rip all of that out and replace it. So one thing, Zach, you might want to consider is, the tile falling into the tub is probably the result of some water damage in behind the tile. There's a reason why it's let loose, and so you might want to check the wall material behind and make sure it's not squishy, or you can poke your finger through it. Because if that's the case, then you're looking at you might as well just tear it all out.
So if you get to that point, which a lot of people probably would if they're in this scenario, what options are we looking at from a kitchen and bath showroom that, if they don't want to go back with tile, what do they have? What are they? Primarily,
in terms of what we keep or would suggest, one of the great options is a tub shower remodeler unit. It's designed, it comes in 4 pieces, so you can easily fit it through doorways. So it comes with a new bathtub and the corresponding walls that lock in with it. So it's a great way to get rid of tile, because here's the deal. No matter how good the tile insulation, over time, and it might take 15 to 20 years, but it's going to become susceptible to water infiltration because of you're using grout, and sometimes those joints crack and you don't even realize it, and water's able to get in there. So tile is one of those things that looks really nice, but it can be very problematic, especially if it's not installed properly. So a remodeler unit is a great option. Another product we have is by Kohler. It's called a Choreograph, and it's actually wall sheets, and they come in a lot of different colors and patterns. Very nice product, and pretty easy to install. It literally liquid nails to a green board, like a drywall green board. You liquid nail it to that, and it butts up against the tub. Very nice looking product. Probably more comparable to what it costs to do a tile job.
Yeah.
The Choreograph would be. The remodeler units themselves are pretty inexpensive when you consider what they're doing, and how easy they are to install and things.
And a lot of that is dimensions. Like, what is your dimensions? You got to go by what you have. You can't fit a square tub into a round hole, so to speak.
Yeah.
So thinking through those things, but I would highly recommend, if you are looking at a full scale remodel, if you really like tile, I would look at some tile options, and we've got some names of people who do good tile work. But if you want to go that other route, and I highly recommend the Kohler Choreograph, I like it a lot.
It's nice. It's very nice.
We've got one on display in our kitchen and bath showroom.
Yeah, come check it out.
Mr. Ryan here can show you. It's a really nice unit, and you can pick from a ton of different styles, what you like, and go from there. So I would. Zach said it's totally squishy.
Zach, that's not good news.
Yeah, you're gonna be probably. I would come by, talk to Ryan, Zach, look at Choreograph, look at a tub. That's another inexpensive option.
And the biggest thing, like in that case, when you have a squishy wall behind it, that means that the wall is saturated with water. So ultimately, you're most likely dealing with mold, like behind that. And all of us know mold is bad. Yeah. It's bad for business.
Not a lot you can do for mold in a lot of situations, but you can, like if you're talking about replacing that board, you may be replacing some 2x4s at that point. Whatever's in your wall, the insulation for sure. But you can
companies out there that do mold remediation if it's that bad, more than you can just clean up yourself.
Right. And we do have mold control, which is a cleaning product which will not only kill the mold, but it does prevent too. So if you've got little cases of that going on in different areas of your house, check that out. There's mildew remover if we're talking about tile showers, and
which works great. It's a great product for that
tub and tile cleaner, which Corey has used. So things to clean that up if you've got some minor issues. But if you get something major behind the wall, you definitely want to.
Yeah, you want to address that for sure.
Okay. Good. Hopefully that answers your question, Zach and Bill. Hopefully we covered most of what you need to know to get started. Do you guys have anything to add on those 2 points or anything else?
I don't think so.
We talked about combustion air and a gas water heater and insulation. And I'd just like to let everybody know, because I've been asked this question, do not wrap your gas water heater with insulation.
No.
That's a fire hazard and could be a dangerous thing. That's one scenario where you do not want to add insulation to try to increase the efficiency.
Yeah, that's a good point for sure.
Yeah, good. We do want to wish everybody a happy new year.
Absolutely.
It's been a fantastic 2017.
Yeah.
Hopefully 2018 is just as good for everyone. We're going to continue on with these videos. We're going to try to just keep answering questions, looking at questions people are asking on the videos, and definitely if you've got a question you want answered for sure, go ask it on our website, burlesonplumbing.com/QA. We'll just keep this going in 2018 for as long as you guys want us to.
Yeah.
Keep trying to add things, but we appreciate you tuning in. Thank you everyone who did. And
Corey, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for all your knowledge too. There's a lot of good stuff today that I don't know all of, so
yeah,
it's good for me to learn if anything. So we hope you guys have a good weekend, a safe New Year's, and we will see you next Friday at 9 a.m.
Yeah. Until next year.
Till next year.
Boom!
See you guys next year.